and you might be watching this video on one of two platforms. You might be watching it on my Patreon, and if you are, hello patrons, and you might be watching it on my YouTube, in which case, hello YouTube. This video is kind of serving two functions right now. Number one, I recently started doing my Patreon newsletters in a video format just because I feel like it's a more comfortable way for me to actually talk to you guys. And number two, I'm also going to be changing my Patreon structure, so I wanted to kind of make this a update video as well as an announcement video, just so that everyone feels like we're on the same page about these exciting new changes that are happening in the very near future. So I am posting this one on YouTube as well, just because it does have the announcement component, but typically my Patreon newsletters will be over on my Patreon and not on YouTube. So why am I making this video? A year ago in August, I decided to revamp my Patreon by implementing physical rewards and offering higher level reward tiers. It was something I was really excited about, and it really gave me an opportunity and a space to try new things on a very select targeted audience and get some really amazing feedback. And it's been a year of growing and learning a lot about how I make product and how I can adapt some of the skills that I've learned to selling products on my online store. I love my Patreon family because they are always open and honest with me. They give me feedback, they help me learn, and it's really a place where I'm not ever afraid to try something new or different, because I know that if I fail, you guys are going to help me learn. Now, I've learned a lot in the past year, and I think that there are some things that I feel ready to change because the way that they exist on Patreon right now is not effective. And I feel like as a businesswoman and as a person who's trying to market my art as a business, the best thing I can do for myself is tell myself when something's not working. And the way Patreon is right now, it's not really working for me. So we're gonna switch it up and we're gonna try some new things. If that's not your thing, I totally understand, and you are under no obligation to pledge to my Patreon if you do not agree with these changes. If you don't agree with these changes, I would love to know why, so that I can add that to my learning experience as we go. Basically, I'm going to be restructuring some of the tiers, changing a few things around, getting rid of some things that are totally not necessary over on Patreon, and all of these changes are going to be taking place as of August 1st. So I'm releasing this video on YouTube on August 1st, but I'm releasing some of this information to my patrons well before then, so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not they would like to continue pledging to my Patreon at this time. If you are an existing Patreon member, no effort on your part is needed. If you would like to continue supporting me, then you're good to go, and changes will be effective as of August 1st. If you would like to pledge to my Patreon, then now is the perfect time to do so, because there are going to be some exciting changes happening, and I would love to get into some of those changes right now. The number one biggest change that I'm going to be making to my Patreon is that all posts are going to be public again. I tried making things more Patreon exclusive, and I just found that this really was not my style. As much as I love offering you guys exclusive content and giving you an incentive to support me, I feel like the way that my schedule is right now, I'm not able to offer enough content to make it worth being exclusive. I don't want to feel pressure to post on Patreon in favor of posting elsewhere, so it just makes sense to have all of the posts kind of public and accessible to everyone. What this also means is that all downloads are now going to be available to everyone as well. So my Patreon is kind of going back to being an open platform for everyone to kind of come in and browse and support if they want, and they can pledge if they choose. That brings me to the $1 tier. Patreon has sort of started to discourage creators from using the $1 tier. This is something that I sat with for a little while, and I tried to figure out if I still wanted to have the $1 tier or not. And the decision that I came to was that I will keep the $1 tier, but I'm going to be changing the purpose of it around just a little bit. As of right now, that $1 tier is basically a tip jar. So you don't necessarily get anything extra for pledging to the $1 tier. I'm calling this my star tier, or my jar of stars tier, for those of you who just want to add a little to the tip jar and support me, but you're not necessarily interested in any of the rewards or reaping any of the additional benefits, because you're already getting full access to the Patreon page as well as the downloads. So this is just more of like a thank you jar. And it's something that I very much appreciate, and I understand if people want their rewards, there are other tiers that they can pledge to. But if that's not something you're interested in, it's just an extra way to support me. So the first change is going to be that everything on the Patreon page is public again. And then the second change is that there's going to be a special tier just for those of you who want to donate a little bit of your extra money as a way of saying thank you and supporting the channel. If you do decide to pledge to this tier, I very much appreciate it, and we're gonna try this out and just see how it works. The next tier is a $2 tier. Kind of weird to have a $2 tier, as it's not a very typical increment, but again, this is a whole trial and error process, and if something doesn't work, we change it, because that's what Patreon is all about. The $2 tier is my new moon tier, which is my previous $1 tier. Basically, if you pledge $2 a month, the big extra bonus thing that you get is producer credit in all of my YouTube videos. So you guys might have noticed I have this little graphic that pops up in all of my videos saying thank you patrons. There's going to be more or less something along this line in all of my videos, thanking my patrons who pledge a minimum of $2 or more. So if you would like to receive producer credit at the end of all of my videos, you pledge to the new moon tier, you get producer credit as well as access to the Patreon page and all the other downloads, just like you would if you were to stumble across my Patreon page anyway. If producer credit is something that you are interested in, the $2 tier is going to be for you. One bit of feedback that I do want from you guys is whether or not you want your first name or your username as the name on the credit. Let me know in the comments down below. There is a possibility that I could do both or one or the other based on people's preferences. The next tier is going to pretty much stay the same, and that is my $5 Crescent Moon tier. I am changing the international shipping price to only be 50 cents more. That way it just helps me cover a bit of the shipping cost, but because the Crescent Moon tier ships in letter mail, it is fairly inexpensive for me to ship. It's just that the stamps are a little bit more expensive. So help a sister out and pay 50 extra cents if you are international, just to help me cover that extra cost. Basically, I just want to remind you guys that the purpose of this tier is that it offers a really good value for the products that you're getting. I'm charging you $5 for 2 products that typically sell for $5 each on my online store. My 5x7 prints retail for $5 and my sticker sheets retail for $5. So you're getting both for the price of one. That is the whole point of this tier, and I feel like I have to remind myself that it's a really good value, and that doesn't always mean that it's going to be a Patreon exclusive design, because I'm trying to kind of get away from that exclusivity component, but it might just be that you get a print and sticker sheet in the mail every single month. I am going to make them different every single month, but you're getting a good value, and in exchange for that, you're not getting to pick the print and sticker sheet that you get. So if you just want to add some of my art to your collection, this is a really inexpensive way to do just that. In addition to that, you also get a personalized note from me in every single package. I really pour my heart and soul into these packages, and I try and make them as fun to open as possible. So if you are the kind of person who likes to receive personalized mail every single month, this is a really good tier for you, because I try and make it as special as possible. And just like the other $2 tier, you also receive producer credit and full access to the Patreon page and downloads, just in case you were wondering. The next tier is my full moon tier. Now this one is going to be changing quite a bit from what it previously was, just because I feel like it wasn't perfectly clear what this tier was before, so I'm trying to structure it a little bit more so that it's clear what people are getting for the value. This tier was previously $25, and I'm now moving that price down to $20. And I'm moving the international price from $30 down to $25. Again, it's just to help me cover that extra shipping cost. But basically, this tier is a mystery print pack. These prints in this pack are discontinued everywhere else and are no longer available on my online store. The only way to get these prints is through this mystery print pack. I am careful to make sure that there are no repeat prints, so that if you pledge to this tier for multiple months, you will not be getting the same prints over and over again, but you will be getting 5 prints in every pack, 2 large and 3 small. So 5 prints for $20 is a pretty good value, especially with 2 of those prints being larger, meaning around 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11 sized prints. You will also get a personalized note every single month that you pledge to this tier, which is just a nice little bonus in my opinion. And just like the other tiers, you will also get producer credit and full access to the Patreon page and all of the downloads. So to sum up, I am changing the content on the Patreon page to be public again because I want less pressure on me as the creator to post exclusive content regularly all the time. My schedule just doesn't allow for that right now, so the content that is on my Patreon is public and anyone can view it and download it whether they are pledged to my Patreon or not. I added a tier for those of you who just want to donate and don't necessarily want anything in return. I shifted the tiers down a little bit so that there is a new $2 tier for those of you who want producer credit, a $5 tier for those of you who want 1 print and 1 sticker sheet a month, and then the largest tier, which is the 5 print mystery pack. Again, it's a great value if you do choose to go for those physical rewards, but if you don't choose to go for those physical rewards, then there's still something on this Patreon for you. And again, I want to emphasize that my Patreon is a place for you to give me constructive feedback. If you feel like something can be improved, let me know. That's the whole point of this. And because it's just a small target audience that I'm focusing on my Patreon, those changes typically happen fairly quickly. Some of the other things that I'm going to be changing just to make my Patreon more professional and streamlined is I'm going to be organizing some of the tags and just cleaning things up a little bit so that they're easier to find posts that are older based on either the year that it was posted or the topic that that post relates to. I'm also getting rid of stretch goals with my Patreon, at least for right now. I feel like waiting to add goals until I reach a certain number of patrons is just not something I'm really open to doing right now. I don't want to wait till I reach a certain number of patrons to have Patreon exclusive polls. I'll just do polls. Like, I feel like it doesn't have to be something that is exclusive and like really targeted towards like a certain number. My Patreon right now is not a major priority for me. I obviously want to make it better and I want to improve every single time that I can, but it is not my job right now. It is just a small part of my job, and that means I am only putting the attention into it that I can and nothing more, which is part of why this change had to take place. So that is it for the announcement portion of this video. If you are not interested in just the newsletter portion, then you can click off here. Thank you for watching. If you are interested in the newsletter portion, then stay tuned because that's what I'll be transitioning into now. So, July 2019. We're actually still in July when I'm filming this. It's currently only July 22nd, but I wanted to make sure that this video was filmed in advance and that I had time to kind of transition over the Patreon page by communicating with all my patrons well in advance in case they wanted to make any adaptations to their pledges. But it was a crazy month. I feel like it was actually a month I got to relax a little bit more and I wasn't as busy as I had been in June and May and April. But it was still busy in terms of just being around people and like just a lot of changes kind of happening, I suppose. So I spent a lot of time with friends and family this month, which was a really big self-care thing for me, and that's been something I've been trying to do more, saying yes to social activities because it gets me out of the house and it just kind of helps me like reorient my priorities a little bit better, and that's something that I feel like I needed. I am in the last month of my internship. I will finish my internship in August next month, and so I will be applying to jobs, and I don't know what that process will bring as far as changes to my schedule or my time commitment, but I will obviously keep you guys informed on that process as it is happening. But I have been working on my resume and building my therapist website and just all of those things. I haven't quite gotten to the application and interview phase, but that is on the horizon, which is exciting. It's exciting that I'm gonna have a paying job in the very near future, and it's something that is very stress relieving. Even though it hasn't happened yet, I already feel like I'm practically at the finish line. And those feelings might change once I have a job. Maybe my stress levels will go back up and I will have to kind of reorient, just like I did at the beginning of my internship. So we'll see. I guess the answer to this part of the newsletter is I don't really know what's to come in the next month, but I am looking forward to it. I also wanted to take a minute to touch on the video I just posted on my YouTube channel, which was my art journey and talking about whether I view art as self-care. And I think that video was so well received, and I received a lot of really good feedback on that video, just comments and people sharing their experiences as well. And so I think the fact that that idea came out of the first video Patreon newsletter that I did was something that was cool, because I got to sort of watch this topic evolve in my own brain through video, and it became more and more clear to me as the month went on that I felt very passionate about speaking on that experience, and speaking about it was very cathartic, and it felt very good to get that off of my chest. And I keep saying to people in my life, maybe I've mentioned it on a video or maybe I haven't, but I feel like my mind has never been more clear about kind of my path going forward, which feels really nice. And it is such a big weight off of my chest, because I feel very certain now that I can be both an artist and a therapist, and I can be both of those things successfully and simultaneously. So that feels amazing, and I cannot say how much of that is due to the support of my internet family and you guys kind of helping me through that process of sorting these out and helping me with that kind of internal struggle. As far as some of my goals and getting back on some of my good art habits, this month has been kind of a mixed bag because I mentioned that there's a lot of changes going on this month. I had a lot of friends celebrating things. I had a friend move away, so we were going to dinner. I turned 25 this month, and so it was just like a week-long celebration that I just kind of ended, where it was like going out to eat and drinking and eating cake for like days on end. And my body is really feeling the effects of it. And I cannot tell you how badly I like want to eat a salad and want to exercise because I feel gross. And it's catching up with me. And I'm 25 and I'm starting to give a shit about myself, I think. And so I'm hoping that the next couple of months I will be getting more on board with physical activity and eating healthier, which does very much contribute and affect my performance as an artist and those long-term goals that I have. I feel like I have been spending less time doing just mundane, mindless activities on my phone. I've put, basically how I've measured that is that I've put a lot less hours into Animal Crossing Pocket Camp this month and Pokemon Go and Wizards Unite. I feel like those have taken a backseat, and in my own mind I don't find myself like craving those games and those activities as much as I did before, which is kind of nice. I feel like that frees up a lot of space and a lot of time in my brain because I'm not doing just a time sink activity. I haven't been drawing as much as I would like, and that is something that I want to kind of designate a time for. One of the suggestions that I got, I think it was from Barry on YouTube. She commented on the art journey video saying maybe one of the ways you can incorporate art as self-care is to kind of incorporate it into your routine in the morning. You know, draw 20 minutes every morning, or just kind of designate a time to do it. And I think that was something that I was really intrigued by, and it's something I would be open to exploring a little bit more. And one of the things I mentioned in the art journey video as well was my plan to kind of revamp the online store. My plan for the online store is to create these sort of capsule collections every couple of months that are all part of a certain theme. So my plan right now, the one that I have kind of on my agenda next, is to launch in September a series of 3 prints and 2 sticker sheets that are kind of all centered around fall and the transition from summer into fall with the changing colors of the leaves. So I want to make kind of a series of 3 prints that transition from like green to yellow to orange. And I also want to create a more artistic sticker sheet with some leaves and foliage, and then a more practical sticker sheet that you could use if you do a planner, like, you know, those types of things. And so I wanted to kind of have that collection and to promote that collection on my channel through videos that I would, you know, be painting the prints in and designing the sticker sheets, all of those things. But then it's also very clear to me that when I'm working on those things, I'm working. And when I'm not working on those art pieces, I'm not working. So it's a good way for me to compartmentalize, you know, this art piece is for work, this art piece is for fun. And that is something that I'm planning to do a lot of. And I have a couple of themes and ideas for the next couple of months. I would say for about the next 6 months or so, I have my store launches planned out. Right now, I'm still planning to keep my store on Store Envy, but with a long-term goal of potentially transitioning onto my own website and having a shop integrated into that website. But that's a ways away. So right now I'm still planning to keep my shop on Store Envy, playing around with the idea of opening my shop in the marketplace. I have to do some research on that and figure out if that's what I want, but I'll have that decision by the time the first capsule launches. But it'll be a fun experiment, and I think that's what the phase that I'm in right now, is just kind of experimenting with different business models. I think I've felt defeated for a long time about the state of my Patreon and the state of my online store. But when I sat down with myself and said, well, you haven't really tried anything new, so, you know, of course it's going to stay the same. If you weren't making sales before, doing the same thing is not going to increase your sales or increase your impact online. And so I think it validated that feeling that I needed to try something new, and I'm doing that. I'm trying some new things, and I'm going to be trying this new approach of only opening the store for a few weeks at a time while I do that special launch, and then closing the store and using that downtime to work on the next launch. I feel like that's a more effective marketing approach, and it's also just something that for me just feels more sustainable right now. You know, when I went through my closet recently, I cleaned basically my whole art room, and I was going through drawers and the closet, and I was throwing away a lot of things. I was going through all of my old prints, and really they have no life in there, you know? They just kind of sit in a box, and they don't collect dust. Like, they're very protected and they're organized, but they're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. And so I kind of was feeling like, man, I want to give these prints a second life. You know, I want to give them a chance to go to a good home. And you know, I have that guilt of like, don't create more prints until you sell these prints. And so this solution that I found, where I was coming up with the idea of doing the mystery print packs for Patreon, freed up that space on my online store to create these capsule collections. So everything is really balanced, and everything's really kind of coming together to create a more efficient and sustainable business model for me. But like I said, I'm learning as I go, and you guys are part of that learning journey with me. So we'll see where it goes. But this is basically all of the changes for this month. I feel like I'm still on the journey of correcting my bad art habits, and that's probably going to be a long journey. I feel like it's a start and I feel pretty good about my level of self-awareness. Like I'm pretty quick to call myself out on my own BS, so I guess that's a good skill to have. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this newsletter. I hope that you are looking forward to these changes as well, and that you take a look at the Patreon and just check it out. If it's something that you think you might be interested in, then I would very much appreciate if you guys supported the Patreon. If not, no worries. There are plenty of other ways that you can support me, and many of them don't cost you a thing. So thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you on the internet.